Welcome to Reading the Green. My name is Mike. Got no Jordan, no Kyle. Kyle's at the Wild game tonight, but I do get to have a very special guest, Mr. Chad Eckert of Fantasy Golf Pod. This feels a bit like you pinch hitting for an injured superstar, and then all of a sudden you take their spot, and that's it.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's
we'll see. I don't know.
Sure.
We'll see how this goes.
Oh no, dude! Man. I got way too much stuff on my plate. I already have a show of my own on Wednesday afternoons, and it's already been relegated to my office. I've been kicked out of my own house because my wife is sick of me doing that. Because she wishes I was helping with the kids.
See, you do it at like 4:20 versus this is 9 o'clock on Tuesday night.
No. So she was okay with this one for sure.
Oh yeah,
and this used to be the time slot I was given at one point.
Well, thanks for filling in. I think this is fun. Like you and I have chatted a few times. We'll get to know each other a little bit better, but we're going to do a very brief Masters recap, and then we'll talk about the RBC Heritage at Harbortown, and a couple of other things that we sprinkle in RTG style. But like first, just to kind of pump up your show a little bit. I mean, you guys are big time. You're years ahead of RTG. But no, seriously, how
because you have hats and T-shirts? Is that why we're the big time?
Well, you wore them both. I didn't even change out of my work clothes today to put on my pod clothes. But seriously though, like you guys been out 5-6 years? How long have you been going for?
I believe it's year 5 we're in. So okay. I think that was our 5th Masters that I've done. And yeah, we started. We're the same. We're you. We just have done it a little bit before you and longer, and so therefore maybe you think we're legitimate.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time. I think your show's great. I really do appreciate your style because it's kind of just like the everyman's show, right? Just don't pay too much attention to stats and touts and all that, and just kind of make your picks and fire away.
Yeah, so I like to call it the beer gut brain model, where a lot of people love statistics and using strokes gained to make decisions. It started from the beginning where it was more my friend and I calling each other and just saying, who you got for this week? Oh my gosh, you're an idiot. How did you come up with that? Who said that guy's name? And then we eventually were like, we could record this if these other people are doing it. And so it was more like, let's crack some beers and click some names, dude. And then that's kind of the tagline has been just crack beers, click names. That in itself lends to a very laid back podcast.
Oh yeah. It's super laid back. And so that's why I think we'd mesh well, because I think like you guys, we don't really pay that much attention to the stats either. As you know, we just analyze the best analyzers of golf data and we make our picks that way. So when we get into the RBC stuff, you'll get to hear a little bit about how we think about things as of Tuesday night here. But so really quick, follow you on Twitter. You seem like you are riding the hot hand lately. You had a couple of big DFS weeks, and looks like the Masters was pretty good. You hit a pretty big single entry.
Okay, yeah. So I think it's gone back. Was the Valspar before the match play?
Yep.
So it was Valspar that got me some money, and then on the match play, I picked Cameron Young versus Sam Burns, basically in my head, and put them together, and that really paid off. So then got a little money there, and then I won like a live single entry somehow to save my bad week there.
Oh
man, now I'm winning on live too, or even there. So and then got enough money where I ended up with enough to buy T-shirts. This was the whole thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So we took a little.
Yep.
Oh, my wife doesn't even know about this. So, but we took a little money. We bought some T-shirts of the money that we won and on DraftKings, and then we pegged $1,000 to put into the Masters tournament. So I had a earmarked $1,000 because I'd never played for that much money before in my life. So what happened then is you get to a point where you're like, I've committed to doing this. I just want to see that money back again. What's the best way to get that money? So it really came down to, I was successful this week because I got lucky with my lineup ultimately, but I did use contest selection to my advantage. And
I thought I thought I saw you in the, I thought you were posting along the way, and Kyle, one of the co-hosts of the show here, texted me. He goes, "Hey, Chad hit pretty big in the $100 single entry." And
Okay.
I said, he goes,
Yeah.
I didn't know he was rolling that high. And I said, you know, you want to, if you're going to put $100 in, why not just plant your flag on 6 players and weed through some of the crap in the lower, the lower fee contests. And, you had a good week. It paid off.
Yeah, so I'm in a league with my outside of DraftKings. Like I have DraftKings scoring league that pays out
Hmm.
after each major, and I've been doing really well in that. And I've been using that as a way to like narrow my focus onto 6 names. And so I've been a little more cash on that
Yeah.
kind of tournament. And because it's only you only have to beat 30 guys and you have to survive in advance, it's a little more like you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot. But I've learned that on DraftKings recently, that might be a better way to play. But you kind of do have to substitute it a little bit if you go into those GPPs with over 10,000 entries. You have to
Hmm.
get kind of stupid and crazy. And in my beer gut brain, I can't get there, and I don't like doing that. So then
Yeah.
what I've learned is that my best way that I play is to go after contests that have 100 people in it or two
Hmm.
hundred people in it, and then I know that I can go more about like what I want to
It,
do, and I can be wrong. Like I had Rory in my lineup, and I'm playing against 111
yep.
people, and I could still be successful. Versus if I go out of my way to play against so many people, I have to get different, and then I'm not even
Exactly
doing what
right.
I want to
It's a
do.
lottery ticket. It's a lottery ticket at that
So
point.
then that one contest I was in was with my league lineup, and I was just like, whatever, I'm going to put my balls to the wall. It had Cameron Young, and it had pieces
Hmm.
that were good, but it didn't even have Rom, and it wasn't even that great or
Hmm.
whatever. It didn't even, it was 5 of 6, and it ended up in the top 4. I think it was fourth, and that cashed me $700. Whereas uh, I was texting my screenshot to my friends that are in the Millie Makers and stuff,
Hmm.
and they have way better lineups than I do,
You would,
but they're
yeah,
not
wouldn't be
winning
close. Yeah.
jack shit. Yeah, so that was great. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're like, "How the hell are
Yeah.
you winning $700?" Oh, can I swear?
It's a great lesson because you're right. Like context selection is really important, and there's a million different contests you can get in. I think people just get really enamored by the big payouts and the all the spots that can get paid. But you're right. Like you want to put $100 in, like why not just roll it on single entry? Like it's a kind of de-risks it a little bit.
Yeah,
Well, I hope you keep it rolling because it's pretty
yeah.
cool
So
to see. And thanks for the
let's figure out
transparency on
this week.
Twitter. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Before we do that, you don't do rainmakers at all on DraftKings, right?
No, I haven't done it. I haven't gotten into it yet. Are you into
Okay.
it?
I'm into it, but very much at like the core and inching up to rail. I won't explain all the mechanics of it, but I'm at the entry level, and I probably have put I'm probably in for about $300 or so
Okay.
on buying players,
Okay.
which has been nicely offset by I pulled a pretty expensive ROM card at some point where I sold them for about $175 2 weeks
Okay.
ago. So it offset some of my investment. But it's
Interesting.
just really cool, the whole like market dynamics of buying and selling players and then entering contests for no entry, but just with
Right.
the
Right.
players you've bought. The problem is so much supply has now been flooded into the market of players and the
Yeah.
payouts haven't changed.
Oh,
So whereas the first couple of weeks they were probably paying out 50% of the entries in a contest
yeah.
were getting paid. Now it's like 10, 20%.
Yeah,
A lot
because
harder to
even my
win.
little brother got a pack for the
Yep.
Masters or whatever, and he was
Yep.
talking to me about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So now they are releasing packs or you can buy packs. And what I want to do on this show, just because it's the rush is fun, I'm going to share my
Yeah.
screen and I have
I was into the NBA Top Shot scene for a minute.
there you
Oh,
go.
can't
There you
lie.
go. Well,
Yeah.
the fun thing about this is that you're playing these you're playing these cards in DFS. So you're applying my DFS strategy to my 100 cards that I own. And I
Oh,
just,
sure.
I have like 4 Matt Fitzpatricks and I have
Right. No,
all
and
these
especially
players and
yeah, because the fields change too, and then
exactly. So a lot of my guys don't play. So I might have 100 cards, but I only got 70 that are in play this week. This week is a good week because so many players are playing.
okay.
But here you go. I'm gonna open this,
So
and
this is does it play like the Top Shot scene, like I was
it
saying?
does.
Okay.
Well, it does. I skipped over that. So this pack today, I bought 2 of them. I bought 2 of them because the rush is worth it, and it's great
Wow. How
content.
much is a pack?
Uh, these ones were $25 a piece.
Oh wow. So it comes with a
And
rare? What do you do with a rare? Can you get into better
well, you either play it to
uh-huh.
get into higher level contests that pay out more,
Or
or
you
you
flip it.
sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, core is the lowest level, rare is the second level, then it's elite, legendary, and rainmaker. You want to play at the rainmaker level, there's very scarce resources. You're talking spending thousands of dollars on one card to play for $1 million a week. So
Okay.
I'm spending a few dollars or $10 on cards to play for $1,000, whatever the price is. It's a little higher than that, but so here we go. I'm gonna click some of these open, and you tell me if you don't know the value, but Joel Damon, I actually don't mind Joel Damon this week. He's got some reasonable history here. Steven Yeager, I also don't really mind him this week.
Yeah,
Guys, these are all guys in the field this week. This pack that I bought was specifically guys playing this week.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, then it must be good players. It's an elevated field.
Yeah, I don't know. I got a Michael Thompson and a Ryan Moore this morning, and the other one that I bought. So we'll see. The big question. Tyler Duncan. Yeah,
he's playing better lately. Does
it
matter if there's number 2 out of 180?
Some people care. Some people
look
from
at
a collector's
standpoint.
Corey Connors. I'll take Corey Connors.
Yeah.
So Corey Connors is probably selling right now for $10. Joel Damon probably $5. Okay. Steven Yeager maybe $5. So like, I'm probably getting it close to $25 in value.
Right. So let's get
let's get a good one here. Mackenzie Hughes. Okay. All right. Well, he's probably, I bet he's like $10-15 at the rare level.
Dude, you're underestimating how many Canadians play this DraftKings stuff and would just click this guy's name and buy his card just for that.
I think you're exactly right. So there you go. I was really hoping I would have pulled one of the stud rares and been able to make another dent, but I don't mind this setup here. So there you go. There for the listeners. I got 10 new cards today. We'll see what happens there.
Do they know what's going on? Do you do this each week?
We kind of talk about it. It's fun to open the packs live. It's
if like they're into it, then yeah, heck yeah. Or if they understand it, because it takes an element of an understanding, which is partially. If you were following NFL, then you probably know about it. But then, if it's a golf specific podcast, you may have not even cared to know anything about that. But yeah, whatever.
And it's you got to pay attention. And I have yet to cash any like real money playing it. But the selling of the players is you can just easily make money each week just selling players when they get steamed up.
People need them. Yeah.
So anyways, there you go.
Well, so I used to cut my teeth back in the day. It was where I first kind of started making content, was on a site called Pro Trade.
Okay.
Which was a platform run by a guy named Jeff Ma. He was the character in Bringing Down the House, the movie, the book. Anyway, he'd still around doing the podcast. But so he started this website that was a stock market for athletes. So you would buy an athlete, and then based on their performance and their stats, their price would go up or down. You could sell them. And there's like all sorts of contests involved, and that was where I started writing contests about draft. So it's a little bit like that in the way.
Yeah, it is.
And as a realtor, I'm a realtor in the state of Minnesota. If you need help buy or sell a house, that market stuff is what I'm all about. So
I think you would have fun with this.
Yeah,
It's probably hard to get in this deep, but if you get in a little bit earlier next year and you can kind of amass. The thing that they haven't figured out is they're not really going to let you carry your cards over from 2022 to 2023. And so
get burnt?
You can. There's like ways to burn them into players next year. But for like my position, my plan is to kind of take this through the PGA and then just start the fire sale before the supply really. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Let's chat about Masters really quick. I know you're a father of 3. I think when Masters Sunday is on Easter, it always feels kind of special. But now that my kids are getting a little bit older, although my oldest is only 5, I realize that there's way too much family stuff going on Easter to like sit down and watch the Masters. But I did get enough of it in the back. Now I get kind of slowed down, but it was I probably texted the guys at 3 different times. Oh my God, Scotty's going to win this. Oh my God, Jordan Spieth is going to win this. Oh my God, Phil Mickelson is going to win this. And then it was always Rob.
No, I'm kind of known obviously as the guy that's like obsessed with golf between my families, because we get together on Sundays a lot during the summer.
What gives you that impression?
Yeah, so it's like, I'm sorry, and then so I got the like, you're gonna be able to watch a lot of golf tonight, early on in the day, and I was like, honey, I don't even care. She's like, yeah, right. But it's like partially because it's on every shot I could see on my phone, and as PGA Tour fans, we know that you're basically watching the leaderboard and stat tracker more than you're even able to see shots on TV.
Yep.
So then when you're like, it's really no big deal. I'll just go to the bathroom real quick and catch up on everything that like you wouldn't really normally be able to do. So I kind of was a little more laid back. Not that I would have been that way 5 years ago, but I think now I'm like, I'm gonna see it all. But there was a point on Sunday afternoon when I was sweating some of these lineups, and like a putt here and a shank there is hundreds of dollars, right? At this point, when you're playing for $1,000, and like in these contests that are only 100 people, like it goes quick. So I was sweating Patrick Reed because I had Patrick Reed in a lot of lineups, and because APPR always play Patrick Reed, but and he's 7,300. So he had that putt on 18. Okay. And it was kind of a long putt. It was for par, and it was to stay in like the top three. I couldn't help myself. I'm with my family, and I cheer like to the point, and that scared people in the room. And it's like, oh, and then I got the like, oh, it's Chad. It took because like there's cousins there, because it's like family gathering. So like I was a little bit into it at that point because
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I never had that much money on it.
That's down the stretch on Masters Sunday. A couple of weeks ago, I think this was now I'm blanking on which tournament it was, but I was saying to the guys that it was the morning that we were trying to get the cut back to like +2 on a Saturday morning because they had to finish on Saturday morning. And I let out like an audible cheer when like Luke List bladed a chip over the green to move the cut to +2. And my wife just looks up like over breakfast and like, she's like, what is this? And I'm like, I don't even ask.
Yeah. It's tough to hold the emotions in. I'm trying to do that better.
I know.
In his career.
Yeah. Well, where are you on Live Golf? Like, do you talk about Live Golf? Do you care about the rivalry? Do you have?
Well, I have a co-host. His name is Josh Bennett, and he's a very pro Live guy because he's very pro Bryson. And if you're on YouTube now, we're Fantasy Golf Pod. You may have seen like one of our Bryson Brooks, Patrick Reed videos that have gone viral over the course of the last 5 years, 10 years, 6 years. So like basically those people have been in my life a lot. Plus I like Tringali. I like Matt Wolf. I mean, it's a real tough tour to not like because all my guys jumped over there. So it's been.
I've never heard someone say they like Tringali.
No, I know. They call me a Tringali truther because I was always ready for him to get his first win, and that never happened. But what happens a lot with Tringali is that nobody wants to play him, and they think he's a tool. And then he's like $7,200, and he finishes top 5 a lot, or he used to. Well, so this how this works. You just gotta buy into guys that irritate people for content reasons. Plus, it's like you'll get a discount on ownership when you play them on DraftKings.
Sure.
So the Poulters, the Patrick Reeds, the Brysons that nobody likes. It's easy
it's interesting you bring this up because I really liked this thread on Twitter from Kobe Dubose about he felt like I really felt like he nailed why, and this is basically as to why he's frustrated with what Liv has done. But basically he says they conducted a massive social experiment about how much money does it get players to take to sacrifice golf that matters, right? Did you see this?
Yeah.
And I'll paraphrase it, but he basically says, here's the list of insecurities that he felt Liv preyed on in order to attract his players, right? Brooks and his idea that he'll never be healthy again and he won't be able to compete. You had Varner and his deep-seated desire to have wealth for a family that didn't. Gooch and his imposter syndrome, Phil and his gambling debts, Reed and his sense of grievance, the Australians and their very weird sense of bitterness towards the tour that forced them to play golf in America for millions, Bryson's critical flaw of being different, Perez, Howell, Kokrak understanding that their careers were coming to an end, Dustin's simple-mindedness combined with his wife's pure greed, and the crusty Europeans' desire to blame someone else for their disappointments. So no, live does not end what the players can do, as we saw this week. 3 players in the top 5. It only ends their desire to do it every week. My favorite line of the whole was the Paulina slam, his Dustin's wife's pure greed.
Yeah, or like keeping up with Wayne or something, you know?
Yeah, but it's just interesting. You say though, that collection of players, it became really apparent this week that it was all of these sort of odd villains on the tour that have all ended up there, and it's for one reason or another. It all kind of makes sense.
You could write the same thread of the people that stayed and then have more noble and awesome reasons for those human beings and realize that like those people aren't motivated by money. Whereas now I did listen to No Laying Up or something where they compared the actual like Patrick Reed Brooks's types or the fills of that tour where they're legitimately only concerned about the big events and they have access to the big events or DJ or whatever versus the Danny Lees and the randoms. Like that's a totally different person. And so those people, maybe they actually like wanted to cash in and know that could be a 5-year experiment, and then they can go back, or they can say like, we don't need those events to prove that I'm Patrick Reed. I've already proven it. So then let's cash in. Let's show up when I need to. Hope I'm in the top 50. WGR gets work date. They promised me that OWG got. Well, maybe eventually they'll get points. But so I don't know. I think there's 2 tours on that tour alone.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I didn't have any problem with it this week. I thought it was fun to have some of those names climbing the board, and it just made the rooting interest kind of different than the every other week, and it was kind of fun. I'm going to do a little bit of RTG housekeeping just to make sure I get the shout outs out that I need to get out. But so we have a listener league. It wasn't as high stakes. I know you are. It's not as high stakes as the FGP listener league, but AJ Bentley was our winner this week. Listener Derek coming in second, and Ness 0163 coming in third. Fourth place was a guy named G. Bentley, who we shouted out the previous week because he was at the Masters, and I'm pretty sure that him getting third in the listener league was not going to cover the Masters haul of swag that he brought home. So I know I'll ask you this, Chad. Have you been to the Masters? And if not, when are you going?
Probably. So I have a 1.5-year-old boy and I have a 6-year-old boy. So like, and my dad's, at an age where like I could convince him to take some of that Social Security money and freaking throw out some Masters tickets for the boys. And actually, my father-in-law is a scratch golfer, so I could maybe convince him to come out of his pocket, and we could all go together. Like a nice trip. So, or else I'm doing that soon enough.
I told my wife this weekend. So I often have a Masters weekend birthday, and I told her for my 40th, which is in a handful of years, I said, we're going. Now, if we win lottery tickets before that can count. But if not, we're just going to shell out. We're going to shell out in 5 years, and we're just going to go. And she's on board. So
you would you go to like the whole week every chance, or would you just do practice rounds and get out of there?
I would think it'd kind of be a 1-day thing. If you're getting tickets secondary, it's probably a 1-day thing. But we'll see. When you get down there, it's probably hard to leave.
People I know who have connections, like Joe Idoni knows the tour junkies, so I could because I feel like eventually, if I really wanted to find tickets because of Twitter or whatever, like I might be able.
Well, it's a good point. Twitter's an interesting spot. Yeah. A couple of other shout outs for the week. So obviously John Rahm was the winner. I like to count him on the gutsiest plays. So we follow our touts and we figure out who, how many people pick which players, but we often have touts that are the only person picking up one player out of the 30 or so that we follow. And I often think that's interesting of who is the one that kind of goes against the grain. And this week, you had Jeff Ulrich over at DK Nation. He writes a column every week. Had Henley and Thigala featured in his column this week. Both guys finishing in the top 10, I think. So, and he was the only one talking about those guys this week.
Interesting.
Hans Gievers over at Pro Golf Now. He was our top tout of the week. He had Finau, Day, and Fleetwood. No superstars there in terms of finishers, but again, you're playing DFS. You want to start with those 4 guys. He probably had a pretty good lineup.
I know Hans. I've been a follower of Hans forever.
There you go. Yeah, you probably you're gonna hear some of the names that you probably follow quite a bit, and it's interesting now that we get to know each other. I
Mhm.
will tell you exactly, exactly how well their picks do.
Yeah.
And then
Don't listen
last
to
thing on
Hans
our,
anymore. Oh wait,
well, no, Hans is all right. Hans is all right actually. One and done. We do run a one and done league. Derek Howard, Jacob King, Mulligan 46, Rock Chalk, and TMK all picking John Rahm this week, and we're hitting up some separation in our one and done league. Jacob King and Derek Howard now about 5 million clear of third place. So I don't know if you do one and done, Chad, but it's our first year running it. It's kind of fun.
yeah. No,
A little,
I kind
your
of
DF.
yeah. See, I'm such a snob now because like I was about one and done in golf like
Mm-hmm.
2001 or whatever. So then it's like by the time everybody's into it and it's mainstream, I feel like it's my dad's fantasy football at that point where I'm like, you guys are still using touchdowns and you're not using PPR. Like, what's going on? You guys are doing one and done. It's
All
but
right,
I get
I
the
buy that.
appeal, but I've never been good at it either. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why I hate it.
Yeah. We'll figure it. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't used most of my studs, so I'm hoping that I just catch them low owned second half of the year here. So with that, we
Mhm.
finally get to talk about the RBC Heritage,
Yeah, half hour.
which will be at, yeah, I know. Hey, let's just shoot the shit a little
Hey,
bit.
it was a great combo.
Yeah. Um, Harbor Town in Hilton Head, South Carolina, Pete Dye course. Last year, Jordan Spieth wins, and so you know what you get with the Pete Dye course, right?
Oh yeah.
Positional golf that features ball strikers. And I think what's so interesting about Harbor Town is it's not even so much like you say it's a second shot course. It's like it's a first shot, second shot course. The greens are tiny, right? So you do have to have great second shot play. I think they're averaging like 3,500 square feet or something like that. But it's also you got to be on the right side of the fairway, or even missing in the right rough or the left rough is better than missing in the fairway on the wrong side because of the way that the trees crowd some of these greens and some of these approaches. And so ultimately that results in strokes gained approach being, I think, like something like 3 times more impactful in models than off the tee or around the green. So ball striking at a premium this week, either guys that are traditionally good at it or guys that have been good at it recently. Anything else that, in your research and your prep that you know about Harbor Town that you'd be looking to feature here?
Well, I've heard there's like some course history stuff, and then I hear the like counter argument of, well, the fields were never an elevated field or
Yeah.
whatever. And then you're like, well, they're not also after the Masters, so it's all just sort of like jumbled.
I'm interested in what sort of Masters hangovers there are, right? I've seen it takes both ways, right? Do I ride someone like Scotty that was playing pretty well come the weekend, or do I take someone like JT that frankly is rested?
Well,
You
because
know?
last year it was Spieth who missed the cut. Now he's back, and then he
Mm-hmm.
won this week because you kind of
Exactly.
feel like you wanted to like you did gear up for this week, and you just have this big letdown. So you wanted to make it known that I was practicing, So then
Yeah.
you win this week, but I don't know if that's ever really a thing. I think the money is more or less like John Rahm's like, well, what the hell? I mean, I'm playing good. Why would I ever not have it? Like
Okay. Yeah.
they're in the DraftKings has given them the entry into a $2,200 Millie Maker
Mm-hmm.
every week. It's like, why not just play the Millie Maker?
Well,
But
let me give you the top of our model. I'll read like the first 7, 8 names in our model
yeah,
this week, and why we think they're getting some love. But so Patrick Cantlay, Scotty Scheffler, both 5-digit players this week. Cantlay at 10-3, Scheffler at 11,000. Scheffler right now our top ranking player in our power index, and a lot of that is driven by Mike McClure, who does a 2-pick feature every week in his free content, and he's picking Scotty Scheffler this week. He's been by far and above our best tout of the year.
with
And so
this,
kind of
you,
whoever,
you only track his free stuff.
yeah, we typically
Yeah.
only track free stuff just because to essentially not pull things from behind paywalls and put those out there. But
Well, I don't think I would say you don't need any paywalled stuff. Like I honestly feel that
yeah,
way.
yeah.
And I did actually at one point in my life, I did choose to pay for this human being that
Mm-hmm.
you just mentioned
Oh,
stuff. So I have put money behind Mike's picks, and it was more or less just to see what was behind the paywall. And I I'm not paying for it anymore. So
well, that's
like
what makes it
just
interesting to track. And I can tell you that Mike wasn't our best last year, and this year he
okay.
is. So something changes in his model that says, well, he's been on this tear where his picks not only make the cut every single week, he gets 2 picks that make the cut. So for like a DFS player, it's like, great, I have 2 picks I can start with that I know that are at least setting a high floor.
Well, Scotty Scheffler, like, wah, like, come on, Mike.
It is.
Who's the next name then?
Yeah, exactly. So then we get down, we're going to get a little bit of salary release. So Shane Lowry has excellent course history here at Harbor Town, followed by JT Poston, also having excellent course history. Shane Lowry, more of an around the green specialist. Poston, certainly a good ball striker. So 8,300, 7,300, followed by Matt Kuchar. Excellent course history here at 7,700. Russell Henley and Sung J M. Those round out all players garnering 30% or more of our touts mentions as of Tuesday night. Those numbers will shift a little bit as we get through Wednesday. But your boy Sung J, I know you guys are buddies.
Right. Yeah. Tapped him on the back, said hi. Check out my profile picture. But anyway, so like the first couple things I heard this week, it was like, I'm betting Sung J, and I'm like, and then
premium ball striker.
As someone that was very heavily invested in Sung J at the Masters and ate the chalk that was the Sung J at the Masters and has followed him a long way and knows about him, I genuinely feel he's about to hit a wall. Like, I'm a little concerned. And so then I'm like, oh, great. All these people are jumping on him this week. And I'm like, so then what am I not seeing it? It's like, yes, it's a short Bermuda course and he specializes in doing that, or he's claimed to, and it's near his hometown of Atlanta or whatever. But at the same time, we're trying to figure out whose candle is burnt. Where this is the whole thing. They're burning the candle. They're looking, and it's wax is burning down, and then there's no more wick. And it's gone.
Let's just take a quick look back at Sung Jae's 2023. Okay, so the last cut he missed was at the Sony Open in Hawaii, in which he lost 2 strokes on the week. He has then gained positive strokes every single week since. 2, 3, 2, a half, 2, 2, 2, 2. Not missing a cut, 1, 2, 3 top 10s and a whole bunch of top 20s. He's been really, really good. So to your point, is he about to pop and finish it off with a W? Or is he about to hit the wall?
I know. And so
the dude plays a lot of golf. He's known to play a bajillion tournaments.
And so as someone, like I said, who could literally watch every single one of Sung Jae's shots last week, I did. And a lot of them, he seemed very stressed the whole damn time. He had a putt for 6 feet to make the cut. Okay? And he made it, and then he had to do a bunch of work in the rain, and then he was paired with Tiger for a little bit, and then he withdrew. But whatever. And then he had to get back out there the next day. So he had a lot going on with his life. He just got married in the off season, so he's got nagging wife at home. We know how this is. But anyway, so then ultimately, I love the baby boy, but then we're popular this week, and we've got this fatigue factor, which I don't know. And then I'm like, fuck. And then I'm like, shoot, am I going to end up ignoring Sung Jae this week when all the touts and experts are saying Sung Jae, and then he's going to come through, and then I'm going to be the one that doesn't profit from it? So I'm confused on what to do. My heart says yes, but my head says maybe not.
Probably got to go with your beer then.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna drink. So meet me tomorrow, 4:20, and I'll tell you what I do.
All right, so I gave you 8 names there. So anyone besides Sung Jae stick out, or who else not in that group? Where else are you leaning early here at the RBC?
So on the fantasy golf pod, my favorite thing to say is you should pepper the 8K range. So I think honestly, like it might be one of those weeks where you pepper the 8K range because you have JT, you got Burns, Fitzpatrick, Lowry, that guy likes.
Back up. Yeah. JT at 8,900 is like, what is going on there? I know the second 9 on Friday or Saturday was a complete disaster, but come on.
Now,
we can't have JT at 8,900.
But, okay, so you say that, all right, and I'm predicting the pricing each week on Sunday nights on my Twitter page, and I predict that JT would be 9,300. So the $400 difference is not even – like, I do this now. I've done this for a while. Like 700, I'm just doing the, again, beer gut brain. I'm making these prices up. Well, I don't know. Maybe this guy's better than this guy. And I've done DraftKings for long enough that I'm not using a formula, and I don't have anything really like scientific behind this stuff. So like, I can't tell you that this is actually good stuff to look at. a lot of people are annoyed by that because they're like, well, how did you come up with these prices? I'm like, my ass. I don't know what you're talking about. But at the same time, JT, I feel like when I'm off by 700, that can be like a whoa, because there's only so many prices these people can be, and they are who they are. And it's, public perception or whatever. It's recent form, course history. And it's not that hard to predict the pricing. But a JT 93 and he's only 89, like it doesn't run it doesn't feel so off like it should, but
I think it's more that there's an 8 in front of it. It's been a long time since we've seen JT go below 9,000.
It's still 400, and exactly like you're saying. So do you kind of think in your head, is this the Spieth moment, or are you like, something's wrong with this man?
I actually don't feel like he's going to be super chalky at 8,900 either. I think you're going to have people that are going to look in that range and say, boy, I could just drop down to Shane Lowry and get a ton of course history and a guy that's actually playing a lot better golf, and I'd rather go there. Or I'd rather take, Tom Kim's been playing okay lately, and I can take Tom Kim, or Matt Fitzpatrick's been turning it on. Like, there's a lot of options in that 8K range that, why take the guy that just shot 47 on the back nine at Augusta and to miss the cut?
Who do you rely on for ownership, or do you even look at ownership?
You know what? We don't. This is the big question in our model. So I currently don't plug in ownership because I basically assume that any of the players that are topping out in our top 10 or so are going to be fairly chalky. Like, typically, if everybody is talking about them, that's how you're going to measure this. If all the content is talking about them, then at least all the casual folk out there are probably then playing them. So I put a thread out there on Twitter on this about creating a high floor. So I can take a whole bunch of guys that are sitting at the top of our model knowing that they're going to be fairly chalky, but I have to know how to pivot. And so one of the things that I like to highlight each week is where I think some of those good pivots are. And the way that I do it is we do track a little bit about, we talk about those gutsy plays. So I look at a guy like Len Hochberg, who writes at RotoWire, and he puts this out every now and then. He'll say, here's how my 6K plays are tracking. And he'll track the number of cuts that he makes. And I'm right there with him, because if I go back and say, well, he's got Scott Piercy, Kramer Hickok, Joel Damon, and Brendan Todd in the 6K range this week, I guarantee that he'll have 3 of those guys make the cut. So I'm going to go try to lean on one of those guys, like even a guy like Scott Piercy. Actually, Joel Damon, this is the one I'm probably going to lean on at 6,900 this week. And now I got him in Rainmakers. Exactly. I sold them at the Bermuda for like $10 or something. So it's nice to have him back. But even with Joel Damon has been gaining strokes on approach in his last 2 events and has 2 top 20s at Harbortown. So it's like, I think a flyer on Joel. He's probably got good enough course history there, and Len knows what he's talking about. I know he knows what he's talking about because I measure it.
Sure. Well, right now I'm looking at Fantasy National. Justin Thomas is like 14.5% on. So yeah, that's not a reason to pivot, especially in a field that's so strong in the soft pricing. And it's like, of course he's going to be 14% on a minimum. So that doesn't feel right. We actually calculate the ownership. I know how to calculate it. I'm a mathematician about it. And so I posted on the Fantasy Golf Pod Discord a combination. I actually really trust this guy named Brick, or no, his name's Brian Hooper, but it's brick75.com. But he puts his shit out late, like Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So you're like, I gotta wait all the way to then. But that's when we do our show anyway, so it works out. Usually I'm like, oh, just put it out, let's use it, So, but I don't actually factor in my clicking.
Yeah, you guys talk about this on your show. You guys, the big debate is like, why care about? I mean, unless you're trying to win, right? You said unless you're trying to win 100,000 person contest, why do you care?
Well, no. So the real reason why you shouldn't care is because the projections are so inaccurate that the data that you're using to make decisions is wrong. So therefore, you're making decisions on wrong data. Why are you using the wrong? What if I told you?
No. Like, how many times do you look at your lineups? How many times do you look at your lineups on a Thursday morning and you're like, oh man, those projections that I saw, this is at least 8% off.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly what happens.
That's part of my problem. But some, I will say, as a person that calculates ownership and is in the laboratory each Wednesday, you can be good on certain weeks, and like I can feel it. Like I feel like I know ownership better certain weeks. So I tell the Discord, I'm like, I have no fucking idea or effing idea this week. Maybe don't trust these, or I'm really good and confident in this week. I'm putting it out there that I know that these are going to be good. So like some weeks I have a better idea, but I really do think that you as a player are going to know what to do, because you're knowing that if I use the guys that I know are popular, then I should throw in a random human, and that's enough to do.
Exactly. So give me a couple of leans this week on DFS wise. It could be anybody in the field, but where would you lean early here based on what you've looked at?
Okay, so I don't know if you're into building strategies or whatever, but there's certain types of builds. You can pepper the 8K range. You can do a balanced build, or what our friend of the podcast, his name is Eric Darbo, he likes to say is you should start with 10 and go to the 9 and hit an 8 and then do a couple 7s and click a 6, because that gives you the leverage there. So I'll tell you, and then 10 and above, I'm going to just use Morikawa probably because he's the lowest price. And I feel like this is kind of a Morikawa course where like everything kind of feels like he could dominate it, and like we'll see what happens if he shows
up. It feels like Morikawa should dominate just about every golf course unless it's windy, and that's just not what happens. But yes, I agree with you.
So then I like the savings there, and I do feel like he's kind of been a little of the forgotten man, and I kind of like that because some of the factors I use for what I click is I'll think that this guy's got money. He's got money coming in forever for these years, and then all of a sudden it's a little bit dried up. Like he hasn't had a win, and that was at the Open that his last win.
So then that is correct. Yeah.
So not like he doesn't get sponsorship money, and not like he's got a bazillion dollars, but he's trying to spend the same as his peers, and he's trying to like show his wife and his wife's family that I'm providing for her. So, and it gets to a point where
that's his motivation.
Maybe he's like, I need to put one of these home, so I got $1 million to throw to the bank account. So like, these people are all the same, and I've used this in the past. Like he hasn't had that yet this season, so maybe he and JT. It seems like a really good combo there, where Morikawa JT, you can easily start with that. So I may actually, I do like Max Homa. But I'm not gonna go to Victor. He seems fatigued. Cameron Young, same thing. Even though he's got Webb, Simpson's caddy, I kind of can skip that. Xander's kind of a fraud to me. So then like Homa might be a click in the 9K range, but I might actually go Morikawa JT, so that I can add another 8K name and screw what I just said about 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6, and go 10, 8, 8, and potentially go like JT Burns, because I like Bermuda Burns. We know he can.
Right now you would be very contrarian in the expert community right now. Homa and Burns as of Tuesday night only having one mention each, with equates to about 5% at this point. So, Homa, John Hazelbauer, Sam Burns, Keith Fleming at Fantasy Six Pack. But that doesn't mean, that probably is a good sign for you that you want to go and get a little bit of leverage. I'm curious what Fantasy National says, but like, I don't know that Homa and Burns are going to be your top targets this week.
See, gosh, on a Tuesday night, like I honestly don't even really want to even because it changes so much. And then even by Wednesday, they'll be like, who did I hear a lot this week that they're going to be so chalky that maybe you can't even play him? Like probably the JT thing where it gets to the point where like he's not wanted at 14.5%, and then you open DraftKings, he's 24%. You're like, so everyone has the same thought. So like but I like Hatton too, and so Hatton at $8,200 can get you some savings. My cousins were in town for the holidays, and my brother-in-law's in town. And he's in my league that we do the 30, and he asked me tonight, we're at dinner together, and he's like, who are you going to click? And I'm like, honestly, if you're playing in the GPPs or whatever this week, or you're going like single entry and you want to get different, you should definitely use the upper price names, because they're going to be there. But then I kind of am falling in love with the 6K range. It's messed up.
There are some really good plays there, and that's why I'll go back. I know I rambled off a couple. I do kind of like Joel Damon this week as a 6K pivot, and I guarantee you're going to get him at 5%. maybe even less.
Yeah,
Like
right
it's
around
going to
5.
be, and then also we'll get to this in a second, but you got a ton of real solid Canadians that are at 7,000 or less. So
Yeah, exactly.
why not? I don't want to spoil here in a second, but you got a lot of names that are sitting at 68, 69, 7,000 that I think can get you a little bit of leverage.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to do that where you build with 3 9K and 3 6K, or you even try to go 10, 9, 8, 8, and then double dip the 6 and just grab some of these randoms. Because this course, I'm hearing is that it brings everybody into the field into play for a win. So
yeah, when you
don't be
reward
afraid
ball
to do
striking and you
stars
have
and scrubs.
tiny greens, like it's just that's what you're gonna get. Do you play? Do you ever do tiers in DFS? You ever play a tiers contest?
I have every once in a while. Yeah. Do you do it?
I do. I sprinkle a little bit just because we try to model out within each tier, however, some of our metrics stick up. And so with we usually each week we try to feature one of the tiers and talk about why some tough decisions will have to be made.
Okay.
I think you talked about some of those. We'll go down to the 7K range, but right now we're not seeing really a lot of love at all. So this gets you down to tier 6. So you have kind of players that are in the $7,500 range. So you got Kirk, Hoagie, Simpson, Clark, Woodland, and Minwoo Lee all sitting in tier 6. And all of those guys getting 10% of our tout love or less. And so I don't know if
it stands out to me.
Well, I know that you guys on the Fantasy Golf Pod are big Hoagie lovers. And
yes.
you we are too, but it's mostly driven by me because Tom and I crossed paths before, back when he was something in the golf world, even as, this is 12 years ago, and I was nothing in the golf world, but yet we were crossing paths in some tournaments. It's weird to look at him and be like, man, this guy was dominating fields that I was playing in. And now he's like the 25th best golfer in the world or something like that. It's just Tom Hoagie, Fargo, North Dakota. Like, how does this make sense?
My friend from high school that we do the podcast with lives in Fargo right now, and he plays at the course that Hoagie was the home course and has the record or whatever. But I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say Cash Game Kirk.
I agree with. So I actually think Hoagie has the kiss of death this week because we have one tout, and I don't like to say his name because I don't want to throw him under the bus. But he misses his Hasselbauer does a nice job, but he's got 2 articles that we track.
Oh no.
He's got 2 articles that we track, and one of them is his sleepers column. And we track a number of articles that are like kind of sleepers or values. But John's sleepers column misses the cut like 60 to 70% of the time.
Oh no.
And so if you're mentioned of his 4 picks, you got to stay away. And Hoagie got the kiss of death this week, which is too bad because I've seen a lot of good takes on him. I'm going to have to stay away, but I like Cash Game Kirk.
I love that.
You're right.
I might bring that up with Eric. I'll bring that up with my buddy who likes Hoagie. He might probably try to click Hoagie. Hoagie's getting up to 8.6% on Fantasy National.
He's getting some steam, and that's just he's going to I just don't want him to disappoint. But Cash Game Kirk. Chris has had an excellent season. Season flappable in the Southeast, and so why not in tier 6? And 7,500 actually is probably a little pricey for Kirk in this field, but tier 6, I'll certainly take that.
And that's what's great, but it's not true. Like, he's a different person, I think now. He's gotten sober. He's gotten his win. He has the monkey off his back. I don't know, what is he? 37. So he's our age or whatever. This is great. He can do this.
All right, I'm going to bring you a feature that we do on we've been doing this on the RTG podcast for the last year or so. We call it the name game. And it actually started because we usually try to pick which Cameron was going to play best in any given week because there were so many. It's like, why are there 5 or 6 Camerons in the field? And so now what it does is we have a running tally of who wins each week based on DK scoring. And the loser among the hosts and sort of a listener pick has to make up the game for the next week. So I lost at the Masters. We had a game called One Champ, One First Timer, One Amateur. So we had 3-man teams that featured a former champ, a first timer, and an amateur. My group of Matsuyama, Kitayama, and Harrison Crow really sucked.
Yeah.
So this week we have the RBC Heritage, Royal Bank of Canada, and there are 6 Canadians in the field. And so we're each going to pick one, and I'm going to ask you to pick one. I'll pick one, and I'll give the two to Kyle and Jordan.
Okay.
And we're trying to figure out what the winner of this will get at the end of the year, whoever racks up the most wins. And frankly, whoever loses to the listeners will have to pony up somehow. So you tell me which Canadian. They're all Connors is the most pricey
Connors
at
is
7,800.
and then you have
And I thought about throwing them out, but Hadwin 7,300, Svensson 7,000, Hughes 7,000, Pendrith 6,900, and Taylor 6,900.
Oh.
I'll leave Connors in there, but you tell me which Canadian at the Royal Bank of Canada Heritage Classic, which Canadian do you like the best?
Gosh, Dan, there were really good Canadians in here. That's funny. And like, you'd think Nick Taylor, who was in contention of that one event recently, would be even higher up there, but he's not. Svensson was on my list at the Masters last week, but he kind of shit the bed. He missed the cut. He's bad there. Oh, he's played here once before.
So Hughes clocked in last week at 6,300, and he was my 6K plant. And I played a whole bunch of Mackenzie Hughes, and it paid off because he makes the cut. He shoots like 68 on in the second round, and ends up making the cut. But he gets steamed up to 7,000 this week after being 6,300 in the Masters field. So I thought that was probably the most interesting jump for Mac Hughes. But your pick.
I mean, honestly, like I think that the Corey Connors could do the Jordan Spieth thing, where he comes in here after missing the cut last week as the chalk and says, "Shit, I've been playing great. I just won 2 weeks ago. I like it here. I played a 12th last year, 4th 2021, 2020 he was 21st. I mean, top 25s. How do you beat Corey Connors? I gotta pick the chalk best play, right?
All right, you got it. I'm locking you in. You're speaking. You're speaking for the listeners, and you're taking Corey Connors. I'm going back to my guy, Mac Hughes. I'm going to give Kyle, he's a big Taylor Pendrith guy. He says he's going to pop eventually this season. And I will give Jordan Adam Svensson for no rhyme or reason. We'll leave Nick Taylor and Adam Hadwin on the table. Good luck, listeners. Chad, with your pick, Corey Connors.
Got the favorite, I think.
All right. Well, I don't got anything else. You got anything else on the RBC? You got any other hot takes? If you're going to throw in an outright, do you got anyone that you're leaning on?
Actually, you know what I would do is I would look up the preferred lines and I'd follow and tail that Joe Idoni kid. Because I used to do a podcast with him, and I never really listened to him, and I always was like, meh. But I should have been the whole time. But I really do think you're going to pepper the AK range this week. You're going to go with JT and Burns in your life, and maybe even go that whole run of 8, 9, 7, 6 or whatever. You got M in there, and maybe
you're ready. I think you're going to get some guys that just kind of the designated events have been won basically by Rahm and Scotty and McIlroy for the last 6 months outside of Kitayama, and so. It feels like we're due that one of those guys is not going to win. I love looking in the 7 and 8K range this week and finding some good value. So, nothing else, Chad.
No, you got to come to our party tomorrow at 4:20, and it's on the internet.
Did you miss? I will take you up on that. Like I said, I'm on a plane to LA in about 6 hours. So not tomorrow, but at some point. Yeah, it'd be super fun.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being here. Obviously, for our listeners, you can find our content every Wednesday morning. We drop our new podcast, and then we have our Twitter feed at RTG Podcast DFS. Follow us all week long. We'll be back in a week to cover the results of the RBC Heritage and preview the Zurich Classic. See ya.